So here's how it happened.
Man, I love Soul Eater. This show slaps my knee like an alligator consumes Floridans.
It is time to burn his house down.
We definitely chose this.
Wait a minute. Why do I feel hotter than normal?
Because I'm here.
That can't be right. Anyways, what are you doing here, Abby Holt? Have you guys come to watch Soul Eater with me? No, not my anime about fire, people! Now how will I continue to procrastinate working on content?
Simple. Arson. Destroy it. Burn them all to ashes. Or we could just make a commentary now while we're here.
That is a very logical and reasonable conclusion to reach while you are in a burning building.
Avi? Were we supposed to set everything else on fire as well? And that's how we burned down the Cloud Palace.
You burned down a cloud. It's made of water. How do you even do that?
I'm halfway done replacing all the water in the Cloud Palace with gasoline. Well,
it's actually a funny story, because as it turns out, you can burn gases with the right temperature. They become different gases.
Yeah, what he said.
Okay, clearly I'm not going to get a straight answer from you. Sarah, if you please.
Does mayonnaise count as an arson?
I give up. This bit has been ruined.
Well, this technically counts as an intro skit, and we found a video that was reviewing the hit anime film from 2019, Promare, before the flashback ended.
See, we won by a technicality. Now all we gotta do is...
It took me 10 years to find the answer to something. I forgot about it in 2 seconds. I don't have anything that's really important to me. That's why everything is beautiful.
Promare is so bad that I have to issue a formal apology to things that I've said are bad before. I really don't know where the fuck to start with this. I was gonna do a stupid ass parody of the Avatar intro that explained how Trigger and Kara broke off from Gainax and then go through Trigger's filmography and talk about stuff like Kill la Kill, but I don't even want to do that anymore, because that has a chance of implying that I still have respect for this company. This movie is so bad it makes the good things the creators have done worse because you further understand what kind of people they are. Trigger was supposed to be the prodigal son of the anime community, as opposed to Kara, who just mooches on our couch and wants money, but now they're making shit like this. If my name was in the credits of this movie, I'd fucking kill myself. Okay, let's maybe not go that far, but I would legally change my name. How about that?
Anyway, yeah, this tone is heterosexual garbage. This movie is clearly a passion project, and clearly you're not very passionate about this genre if this is how you react to one of the most critically acclaimed movies in the genre. If that's the case, what would compel you to join the staff in the first place in order to live out this suicide fantasy of yours? If you're gonna make a dumb, edgy joke, at least have it make sense, forehead.
I don't know what you are talking about. So far, this clip is very relatable. I too would want to end my own life if the film I made had shapes in them. Honestly, I would hate to be in the same room as a bitch-ass fucking circle. Man, I am so glad that I am not in the same room as a circle.
But yeah, the tone is very indicative of how this entire video is going to play out. Which is basically some Twitter head-ass who thinks he's so much better than you because he dislikes the popular thing.
It has an 8 out of 10 on my anime list. 97% on Rotten Tomatoes? Was this the first thing you people had ever watched on a screen? What were you comparing it to? Please tell me, I need more video ideas for when I'm done with this.
I was comparing it to Fusion Reborn because I'm gonna have to bring it back up later.
You see, I was comparing it to the live-action film Mortal Chordal, and I liked it better than that.
I was comparing it to a good anime movie, like Norm of the North Star.
Why I love Promare, come on bro.
As you can imagine, my favorite animated movie of 2019 was Studio Trigger's Promare.
What?! I can't even legally say that I watched any animated movies in 2019, and I already know there's better ones than this. One Piece Stampede was stupid as hell, but not this stupid. Girl from the Other Side, that was like a short film OVA, that counts, right? What else came out that year? Mewtwo Strikes Back? You telling me Mewtwo Strikes Back wasn't an objectively perfect film? Fuck you.
You really are trying to say that other movies you have not seen are better than this movie just because you refuse to admit that maybe this film might not just be your cup of tea. Because that would imply that your video is an opinionated review rather than an objective one, and we just cannot have a nuance like that in my anime review.
Bro, Mewtwo Strikes Back looked like shit. With everything you say later, why even use this as an example? Even as a fan of Promare, I'll say the worst looking moments in the movie were the panning shots where the characters remain static. Those really looked like shit, at least compared to everything else in the movie, but those moments were really few and far between. Meanwhile, Mewtwo Strikes Back is constantly riding the uncanny valley line, making everything in the movie look unsettling at best and disgusting at worst. What's even funnier is that the 2019 Mewtwo Strikes Back is a 3D animated remake of a 2D animated movie from the 90s, so by your own criteria, this would be a much worse movie than Promare, as Promare still has amazing 2D art. Even if it is just a joke, at least Promare never looked like it was made in fucking Gary's mod.
Well, actually, Avocado, using Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution is a good example, because it was 2D animated in 3D.
Ah, I see I have been defeated in intellectual combat, because mixing 2D and 3D is a worse war crime than turning a beloved 2D movie into a movie with worse animation than the live-action spin-off.
This is fine.
Alright, so first and foremost, I'm gonna shoot down the people that have seen this movie and liked it. Chances are you clicked on this video and you're already mad because of the title. But I'm gonna let you know right now, if you somehow finished watching this movie and found nothing wrong with the script, then I can't do anything to explain the differences between good and bad storytelling to you. So instead I'm going to talk about the audio-visual aspect of this film first, because my problems with that stuff are a lot less time-consuming for you. This movie is the dictionary definition of hot garbage. It looks and sounds like the 2003 Spider-Man reboot with Neil Patrick Harris.
You're gonna feel it! The rage of the burning! I told you! Sally is mine!
Ah, I see you went to the Nuxtaku school of point making. That being making some bullshit comparison and not explaining them in the slightest. It's not enough to show us the two clips and just assume they look the same throughout. Tell us why this comparison works. Also, nice Rainbow Dash PNG. I was also a brony in 2013 and stole art from Google.
Dude, is your name Mr. Fantastic? Because you really stretched for this point. Seriously, even with the two clips you played, one of them has a cool CGI fire dragon that is incredibly dynamic, and the other has electricity as well as not being very dynamic in general. So far, the only comparison I can see is that they're both CGI, and by that logic, I can just say that Freedom Planet looks as bad as Final Fantasy 1 because they are both pixel art.
And my favorite part about all this is that this claim isn't complete bullshit, because I decided to look up footage for the animated series, and to my surprise, yeah, they do look similar. At the very least, they seem to be going for a similar style. Although, Nostalgia Critic over here decided it would be a good idea to use an example that doesn't look similar to the rest of the show, with the only part that does being obscured by lightning. So nice job there. Even so, just because they go for a similar style doesn't prove that they look exactly the same. Like Spider-Man having a more standard cel-shaded style and more focus on dark colors and shadows, while Promare plays into the cel-shaded style more with brighter and neon colors. By your logic, I can say that Persona 5 and Deltarune are the same game because they both have recruitment mechanics.
I hate this CGI so fucking much. Anime CGI in general is like escort quests in video games. It doesn't matter how hard you try, it's always gonna end up being terrible. The best thing you can do is have it so sparingly that I don't even notice it. You telling me Mewtwo Strikes Back wasn't an objectively perfect film? Fuck you.
Abby, you want...
Not exactly the hardest counter, but the only point I wanted to make is that absolutes like these are super narrow-minded and low-key toxic. Dragon Ball Super Broly is generally thought of as one of the best-looking Dragon Ball movies, and the idea that you want all of this to be 2D animated with how much difficulty the animators had with movies like Fusion Reborn sounds entitled as hell. Remember, these movies have to actually come out. When you put up an absolute like this, it removes the idea of looking at things even remotely differently and sealing your uninformed opinions before really absorbing the content purely because CGI killed your grandma or something.
Especially since over the last few years we've had CGI anime that the masses consider to have good animation. Land of the Lustrous and Beastars come to mind, and they're TV series that don't have the big budget that movies have.
Also, in regards to good escort missions, Astral Chain with his escorts who are either non-intrusive or can actively fight back called, and Bayonetta 2's Loki would also like to chime in with his cards that can stun enemies to help set up for combos or break their armor. And the moment you try to argue about whether or not it counts as an escort, he walks with you, fights with you, and can die. And at that point, the entire comparison and point just falls apart.
This is why I say anime movies from the 90s are the best, because there wasn't any of this.
Oh hush, you literally have 3 movies of that exact thing. Though, bad lasagna aside, this scene looks just fine. Nothing about it is really offensive to the eyes aside from the brightish colors. Also, you can make the argument that using CGI was to the benefit of the scene as a whole because of how broken the reality was. Finally, the motion is very smooth, so even if there are some awkward bits, they don't last for more than a couple frames in the movie. But using your example of Fusion Reborn, I'd honestly take Super Broly's animation over fucking this. I mean, let's just ignore the fact that it makes no sense whatsoever, but it's fine, because it's not CGI.
Hey Bowser, do you remember my favorite 90s anime movie, The Fury, that is also fatal? 2?
That's lame. My favorite was the B-movie anime. And have you seen the preview screenshots for the remake B-movie Stings Back Pollination?
The problem then is when the rest of the movie looks like shit, and I'm not talking about the random frame rate drops. I actually welcome those, because it's impossible to process what the fuck is going on without them.
Yes, because it is very difficult to look at an establishing shot of a floor getting Tetris blocks. It requires so much brain power to fully process the amount of things going on here. It's a miracle you managed to survive the amount of blast processing needed to understand this scene. Someone give this man a medal.
But Sarah, don't you see that we're actually playing Tetris 99? And the floor moving symbolizes everyone attacking me at once? So obviously I won't know what's going on.
Fuck you for proving my narrative wrong. I'm still going to give him the medal.
Bad, Sarah! We don't give medals to our targets!
The directors at Studio Trigger are famous for always putting a bunch of shit on the screen at once, which is cool the first 900 times you see it, but in a movie like this where they can't go 5 seconds without an action scene, you run into some problems.
Okay, so we didn't watch the same movie with the pizza restaurant scene, the frozen lake, Gallo's entire plotline with Cray until Leo destroys the city, and the various portions of downtime we got in the movie. Or do you count Cray punching Gallo in the stomach and Gallo fighting against the oppression of heterosexuality as action scenes? Give me a fucking break.
To be fair, you did slap me a minute ago.
Now obviously the guy is being hyperbolic, but as Avi explained in the action scene of him standing and talking, when it's not really accurate to the movie, like not even in the slightest, then it really doesn't work out all that well, especially since you've been hyperbolic this entire video. So it's not entirely clear if you're just using it for the funny, or this is what you think valid criticism sounds like.
Like, what the fuck did I just see?
I could argue that this continuous shot is actually not that difficult to follow, given it has a very natural flow of events from one bit to the next. Like, Gallo gets punched, so he gets out of the way and moves to a better vantage point below Leo to fire ice at him. This really isn't too hard to understand unless you have to film it like 3 times speed or some shit.
I bet he was doing the Promare speedrun. If you pause 3 times at the right frame when Gallo breaks the window, you can skip to the first Cray fight where you punch him once and only once.
On top of that, this film has a neon color scheme, which is a very cheap and volatile way of making something look cool.
Or they just thought it would be an interesting aesthetic choice for the film. But I get it. How else are you going to insult the film for no reason? Isn't that right, Sarah? You freak?
Or the film could just be doing this to help better differentiate burnished flames from normal caveman-made ones. You know, as they show in the film during the Pizza Hut scene and the scene in the cave.
Or maybe it's because, contrary to popular belief, that's not real fire. It's fucking alien super energy or whatever.
The world may never know.
Dickhead! That is the plot of the movie!
Guys, we got another action scene! Get the music!
fine.
Can I just ask what's stopping these characters from talking out their differences? Alright.
You know, that's a good question. Why can't they just talk things out? You see, I think it has to do with this minor little thing. You may not have noticed it, but I believe it involves the genre of the fucking film.
Okay, so to recap the reasons why homophobia exists in Promare and why they can't just talk it out, 30 years before the event of the movie, as shown by the opening, the Burnish appeared, faced horrible prejudice due to the casualties, and the Mad Burnished Gang was formed to combat the people who would rather snuff out their lives than risk anything with a conversation. In the modern day, homophobia is governed by a man named Cray John Racism Fivesyth, who perpetuates the idea of Burnish being evil by having the police, also known as Freeze Force, arrest Burnish on sight. In response, the Mad Burnished Gang commits arson throughout the city, but while under the leadership of Leo Gay Arson Fotia, the Mad Burnish no longer kill people. They only destroy the buildings that are used by Cray to further his research without resorting to killing. In summation, the Burnish want to destroy homophobia, and John Racism wants all the Burnish to be incarcerated. How, in the everlasting fuck, are they gonna talk it out?
And on top of that, even if we took out the fire racism from the movie, there's still the plot point where Cray John Racism Forsyth, founder of 4chan.com, is using the Burnish to power a teleportation device to go to another planet because it's revealed that the magma in the Earth's core is gradually increasing and will eventually lead to a mass eruption that will destroy the planet. And he wants to use them to take a portion of the population to a new planet so humanity doesn't die. Adding on that this kills the Burnish, and later Cray is revealed to be a Burnish who doesn't seem to give a damn that he's killing his own people, you can see why they couldn't talk it out.
This is fine.
The premise is so fucking unoriginal, I couldn't believe someone unironically wasted an animation studio's time on it. And it's not like it's done in a subtle way either. I swear they were challenged to set a new record for how many times you can beat your audience over the head with a moral dilemma.
Just wait a minute! It's true that harboring a Burnish is a crime, but that's a special law that applies only to terrorists. This guy is not a terrorist!
Man, you really picked the worst example for this point. Because hey guys, fun fact, the scene that he just showed is the movie introducing the moral dilemma. To explain, this is near the beginning of the movie. At this point, we've only seen Burnish from the Mad Burnished terrorist group. So at this point of the movie, our only interpretation of the Burnish is that they're very bad people who'll burn down your buildings and roast your toes. This scene is meant to turn that around, as the Burnish here was not doing anything to hurt anyone in any way. He was just making pizzas, and despite that, Freezing Force just came in to arrest a guy for just existing. And obviously, our main guys would have an issue with that because they're not Cray John Racism Forsyth. Again, this is the scene introducing the dilemma. They kinda need to do that if they want to have one in the first place.
Also, you don't actually say why it's unoriginal. In fact, with how you've been describing the plot, it sounds like nothing I've ever seen. So why call it unoriginal when you don't bring up any other stories that Promare would be taking from? Aside from the racism argument, which doesn't even work because this isn't a fucking racism allegory. You see, people don't just randomly become black.
So the main characters are the main characters from Fire Force except more Gurren Lagann, and they have to arrest these fire people, but it turns out they wanted to get caught to be put in jail with their fellow fire people so they can break them out from the inside. And while this is happening, the cast of characters are set up during a cliche scene of them eating pizza so they can barely talk for the rest of the movie. Like, I forgot half of these people even existed. I don't even think this guy had any lines.
Bad news, Captain. Those guys are Mad Burnish.
Inferno terrorists?
Affirmative. Most of them were captured, but their leader and two of the top generals are still at large.
And basically they're all racing to see who can say the most exposition.
He saved your life or something, right?
Yeah, when I was a kid.
He must have been a college student back then.
Thanks to that rescue, everyone knew who he was. And that's how his research on fireproof materials gained attention.
You know, people do in fact talk like this when they are explaining things to people who are not knowledgeable in the subject. Have you never gone to school? Do you not in fact leave your house to talk to real people and or eat grass? Because that shit was like 3 sentences. It's not like you wrote a 60-page paragraph essay with several tangents and bullet points. This is some very natural expository dialogue. Even if it is just bad because expository dialogue, would you rather just be left in the dark about character relationships and the history of the world you're viewing? Because if so, then you would really like Killer is Dead.
Did you know that the moon is actually made of
Evil!
Neither did I, because the game never told me shit!
The only thing that should be burning is your soul! Your blaze is a nuisance, and I'm gonna put it out with my own burning soul! Cause that's who I am!
Even if we ignore how Leo says this is stupid right after the clip you play,
And I'm gonna put it out with my own burning soul! Cause that's who I am! Complete nonsense. Shut up!
this is supposed to be dialogue that sets up Gallo's character of being the best timeline version of Kamina Gurren Lagann. If the problem is with how in your face Gallo's character comes off, congratulations, that's the fucking point. And even if it weren't, then that's ignoring how this bit of dialogue is said during the cold opening of the movie before we can get any kind of real exposition to set up what the world is like or how it works to the audience yet. So why not use this time to actually set up how the main character's character is?
I'm proud to be Alice Ardabit's sister. My sister is the cornerstone of Foresight Labs.
You should be proud of yourself, too. Because you're you, Aina.
Oh my god.
Okay, fine, you win this round. Heterosexuals do not, in fact, exist on Twitter.com.
So this is just convincing me that you've never interacted with people before? Because Aina being proud of her sister for being successful, and Gallo reassuring her that she's important is stuff people do all the time. And yeah, when you cut out context, the dialogue is bound to sound worse. Isn't that right, Abby?
No, the instant ramen's been released. We need to go now.
Yeah, you do that. Anyways, funny little thing. This is part of a conversation where Gallo and Aina are talking about how they feel inferior or a burden on their role models, Cray and Harris.
It's good to know you've got the sense to come here and cool off.
The last thing I want to do is give Gov Cray any trouble.
Huh?
Well, all the higher-ups know that he was the one who saved my life. So if I go rogue and start causing trouble, they're gonna think I'm misusing his authority.
I think I understand how you feel. It's the same for me. No one ever thinks of me as just Aina. I've always been Ellis's younger sister. She was the smart one ever since we were little. They called her a child prodigy.
So yeah, this dialogue makes sense in the conversation. But sure, let's just say it's cringe and move on.
Also, if I may be permitted to continue existing, you notice how all of these examples happen during the first third of the movie and are mostly there to make sure the audience's brain does not need training wheels later on when Gallo comes out of the burning closet? Or when Aina's sister decides to start being a character? Really does make you think, huh?
So this is the part where I talk about how this movie has a terribly executed stand-in for racism, because Zootopia did that shit and Trigger was all like,
Another one. Another one.
So the fire people are hated by everyone, even though most of them are just minding their own goddamn business. And they try to make that interesting for 5 whole minutes, but then abandon it halfway through because the people in charge of imprisoning them are secretly evil. So there's no political debate as to whether or not what they're doing is wrong.
Yes, because the police stand-in for the film arresting the totally not homosexuals under false pretenses means that there is no longer any political intrigue.
Did you really come in here to say you wanted this movie to be homophobia bad?
Also, you'll never guess what completely fucks this entire section over.
The script?
Side Leo, actually.
But Ivy, I'm Gallo.
Wait, I was too busy being an incel. What side, Leo?
Comes in and beams the entirety of Side Leo into Saradust's brain. There, now you know.
Wow. Oh my god! Now I know the entire existence of Side Leo. Now I know that Side Leo is a short film that was played in theaters before the film and is on the Blu-ray DVD of the film that showcases the origins of Leo, how he came to lead Mad Burnished, his motivations, and that these things make his complaint about the script moot. Now I am no longer an incel. Thanks, police. Very cool.
Just do the racism plot. You already went through the trouble of having the scene where there's the turning point and the main character realizes he's been fighting for the wrong side this whole time. Then the leader of the fire people says it's just natural instinct for them to burn things, which you think would be common knowledge to the public at this point. I don't know why he stopped to explain that. But you don't even have time to process it because it's followed by the stupidest thing ever said by a person.
But we don't kill people. When the Mad Burnish attack a city, we always provide an escape route.
So let's take a look at the first scene of this movie. The Fire Force go to save some people that are trapped inside of an office building, and they have to use the jaws of life and a helicopter to get everybody to safety. But don't worry, you left an escape route. Wait, how the fuck does that even work? You can't control the fire. It spreads evenly in every direction. How are you guaranteeing the safety of the civilians? Why not just evacuate them and then burn the building down?
How could they evacuate the people without getting caught? In this instance, they needed people in the building for burning rescue to come in order for them to be caught. They made sure that the people could get out safely, but they needed hostages and couldn't warn the people without John Racism knowing what they were up to. But no, the optimal play is telling the employees that they were gonna burn down the building, lead them all out, and then burn the building to the ground and stay to get caught. They needed hostages for burning rescue to, well, rescue, and had the ability to keep them alive using Leo's absolutely supreme control over the Promare.
They can't control the fire. Yes, they can. They're burnished. That's what they do. And we've seen them turn their fire into fire arrows, catapults, swords, snakes, dragons, and manifest fire motorcycles and BDSM bodysuits. Yeah, I think it's pretty plausible for them to make an escape route and keep their hostages alive.
Also, why not just focus on the racism plot? But they do focus on the racism plot. John Racism's ship isn't exactly fueled by gasoline, forehead. The entire last third of the movie is about them saving the gay pyromancers from the crazy supremacists. The fuck do you mean they dropped the racism plot?
I guess he doesn't believe in arson and racism coexisting despite agreeing with John Cray Forsyth racism. But despite that, if we go back to one of my favorite Leos, the side Leo, we learned that Leo only became the leader of Mad Burnished a month or so before the events of the movie. So when Leo says Mad Burnished don't kill people and always leave an escape route, he's more so talking about his philosophy rather than Mad Burnish's, at least before he became their leader.
You caused millions of dollars in property damage. You're terrorists. Who would ever forgive you in a real-world setting? I don't think you could write a more hypocritical character if you spent your entire lifespan doing it.
We don't kill people. The Burnished don't kill people unless they're forced to. Don't kill anyone. We Burnished don't kill without reason. I will turn Prometheus to ash, and I will show no mercy.
Man, you really did just completely ignore the context for this scene, didn't you? Actually, at this point, it's really not much of a surprise. Is this surprising to you guys?
No, I cannot say I am too surprised either.
I would honestly be more surprised if you told me this man's favorite Pokemon isn't Charizard.
Yeah, before this, Leo literally witnessed his entire people get captured by freezing force to be used as fuel and die, and was launched into a volcano against his will while feeling the pain of not being able to save them. I wonder why Leo is very angry in this scene and is going against his morals. It's almost like characters aren't static pieces of paper and don't always act consistently under intense situations and emotions. Who would have thunk it?
Not just that, but the part you don't show is Gallo reprimanding Leo for his actions and showing him that he's going against his own moral code before Leo cools off. So not only did you miss the point of the scene from a character writing perspective, you're talking like someone who's basing their entire review off of a fucking trailer with how misinformed this is.
This is fine.
So they reveal that Earth will explode and the human race will go extinct if the fire people aren't used to fuel a spaceship to send everyone to Omega Centauri. Oh, I'm sorry, did that sound completely random to you? What's the matter? Pay attention, write this down.
Man, can you imagine thinking that the thing that changes up the plot of the movie coming out of nowhere is a bad thing?
No, you know what I can imagine, though?
Mayonnaise.
Misinterpreting the plot and summarizing it in a way that's blatantly incorrect. You give a 3-sentence summary and say humanity has to migrate or the planet will blow up. If you want an actual way to summarize this in 3 sentences, try this. Because of the emergence of the Burnished, the planet core is going to blow up. John Racism shows Gallo the spaceship that will transport 10,000 people to safety. The catch is that the ship is powered by the Burnished. Done! Gallo even does that himself later on. Again. Are you just admitting your listening comprehension is worse than a man who's called an idiot more than Goku, or do you just hate the gays?
At this point, you've probably noticed that this guy's idea of criticism is to say something happened in the movie and calling it bad because of course it is. Like this guy could go, "Look at this rat! It's terrible! It's disgusting! It's putrid! I hate this rat and he hates you! So you should hate this rat!"
Don't Look at it!
The fire is then revealed to be an alien life form from an alternate dimension, and by using the fire people to fuel the spaceship, it'll cause the planet to explode anyways. See, in order to make enough fuel, the fire people have to literally burn out and die, but such a thing would surely anger the fire aliens, thus destroying Earth. Wait, it was gonna get destroyed anyway. Did they say it would blow up the ship too? Like, they showed this picture, I could barely understand what the fuck was going on in this scene, so I just assumed this represented, like, the link between explosions. But if the people on the ship still escape to Omega Centauri, that's a good thing. Humanity doesn't go extinct. Huh.
They clarify that the burnish being used as fuel would accelerate the fucking of the Earth's core, which would imply that they would make it explode before they can get into the portal to go to E124 Omega.
Also, the point of Gallo and Leo fighting back is to prevent Kray's plan from even being needed by fixing the problem itself, rather than taking the easy way out and running away.
Well, it doesn't matter because this bitch has a sister who invented the technology that powers the ship, but her and the bad guy have a falling out, so she sabotages it, dooming humanity as the planet erupts into flames. But it's okay because the fire aliens shield everyone. How? Well, I'm glad you asked. You see, moral of this story is a real good one. It's, don't be racist towards fire terrorists that are possessed by aliens. Or do. Your planet's gonna burn either way. They even make the point of discussing some of these plot holes, but just enough to where they don't have to admit to them. What's hilarious is they don't even have enough time to do it as much as they should, because every story beat in this movie has its own respective plot hole. The opening scene shows these people being mistreated or fed up with society, and it's through these negative emotions that the first generation of fire people are made. Then they say some insane number like half of humanity is wiped out because of this. I guess those 3 billion people didn't follow the escape route. And so 30 years pass and humanity repopulates, only for the fire aliens to require a complete inferno to engulf the planet so they can return to their dimension. But what was stopping them from doing that over the 30-year time skip? If they had done that and used their shield magic in the first place, there wouldn't have been any conflict.
Leo invented escape routes. Please pay attention. If the burnish and general population knew how to fix the problem, we would not have a movie. Oh, why did Quill hit Thanos with the gun? Why didn't Salem just accept that her husband was dead? Or better yet, why didn't Trunks, Gohan, Vegeta, and Piccolo just give Goku their power so he could one-shot Broly like a asshole? Why did Virgil not just walk up to his son's garage and politely ask for a sword back? These aren't plot holes. These events are people being people, and the control of information about the burnish being sustained that helps the plot progress. Use that 5-head of yours to actually decipher the plot before making a half-baked rant where you straight up agree with John racism!
Besides, even if everyone knew how to fix the problem, setting the entire world on fire sounds like a daunting task, and not one that everyone would be on board with. Like, I know how to save my sister! Oh cool, how? I need to commit genocide. No!
Also, while I'm here, you got into the movie for not being slow enough and causing you to not be able to process a lot of the plot. Yet your review tries to shove like 3 to 4 different points in rapid fire in the most disorganized manner possible, all in the span of like a minute, and then disguising it as a totally legit summary. Like, dude, good pacing is not your arch nemesis.
Also, I just realized this now. How does that send them back to their dimension? First, the planet is engulfed. Then they punch it. Okay, then the plot of Final Fantasy VII happens. Okay, and that sequence of events somehow closes a space-time fracture in the Earth's core. The problem here is that the flames are treated as a character, but they can't talk. So what's the point of them being sentient?
Hey all, Sarah here. Fuck Ruby. Why is Ruby garbage? Because Neapolitan cannot talk, therefore she is not a real character. Fuck you, Miles Luna. Mute people aren't real, just turn off the fucking monitor.
That girl from a silent voice? Yeah, why is she sentient and a character? Should have been a brick instead. Every Pokemon ever? Fuck them, they ain't even real. Trees? Useless. We should get rid of them. Goddamn things are stealing my oxygen anyways. Hell, the aliens aren't even treated as a character in the first place. They're just an entity to explain why the burnish exists, you dummy.
I mean, they took DMC Dino, made him mute, and that added loads to his charm.
Apparently he taught the villain everything he knows, but was shot by him. With a gun? Like, what the fuck?
Breaking news. Local man discovers firearms. More never, because this bitch sucks.
So who wants to bet this man hasn't left his room in 10 years? I'm putting down 420.
I am willing to bet my entire $3.69.
There's a big plot twist too about how he was secretly one of the fire people, so why didn't you use your fire powers to frame it on the terrorists? They could have searched everyone for guns that matched the bullet and figured out that you did it to steal his research.
Okay, real quick. Let's assume that my man John Racism did in fact use his burnished powers instead of God's creation, a fucking gun. Then he would have been caught on camera and the people would have found out that he was a burnish, which would be very unhelpful to his entire plan. Especially when you consider said plan involves the enslavement of all of the burnished. It is literally the very definition of counterintuitive, you fucking.
Even if Cray did use his burnished powers, who says the same thing wouldn't have happened anyways? Because if the doctor was burned to death, they could have figured out that there was a burnish in the building. And be like, how did a burnish sneak in here? Maybe they're disguised as one of our guys. Let's search everyone. Hell, at least with a gun, Cray can dispose of it and erase anything that traces it back to him. Well, if they have a way to figure out he's a burnish, then he's screwed.
And not only all of that, but who's to say Cray even was a burnish when he shot Professor Dayers? And even if he was, using his burnish power to kill him would destroy the twist of Cray being a burnish later on. Consideration of the narrative is crucial when looking at moments like these, and ultimately it makes no difference as the Mad Burnished were already public enemy number 1 and Deus died anyway.
This man doesn't die or get punished for that, by the way. This movie has the same ending as Undertale for some reason, even though it's not earned in any way.
Man, I remember that time in Undertale where Frisk punched Flowey in the mouth and burned the entire underground with Azrael. It was really beautiful, you know? It really made Frisk's later turn into a crime lord and removing of R in his name very tragic.
Because, as we all know, Undertale invented sunsets. This feels like you honest-to-God threw darts at a buzzword dartboard and picked shit as you went. Also, the body was never found. Your mother.
This is fine.
The main characters, by sheer luck, find this laboratory at the exact moment in the plot that they need to.
I did not choose you. You just happened to land here.
He then reveals security camera footage of his death. Like a .mp4 of it. How the fuck is he the only person who has a copy of this? Don't write this into your script. Just flash back to it. Or anything but this. If he had access to this, don't tell me he couldn't have emailed it to someone, because that's exactly what they do immediately after this.
Isn't that Professor Davis? The governor killed him?
This footage is...
It's only a video. They're easily falsified.
You literally showed Cray denying the video's legitimacy and everyone but Ellis going back to work. I am so tired.
I mean, racism foresight John Cray has always been one to deny allegations. I mean, have you seen what he's done on 4chan?
You really went out of your way to miss the point that them finding Professor Deus on a complete coincidence is a joke. They even pointed out right before they go to defeat Foresight John Cray racism. God, next they're going to tell me they looked at the big robot literally being called the Deus Ex Machina and thought it was supposed to be 100% serious.
But wait, I haven't even gotten to the best part yet. He gives them a mech to beat the bad guy, called the Deus Ex Machina. If you have stopped believing that these are the real plot points, I am not in a position to blame you.
Wow. You actually thought the Deus Ex Machina was supposed to be a serious name? Oh god, you would buy a Knock Knock joke book and review it like it's an actual novel that has several plot holes about how to get across the street.
The only joke here is this video. Oof. Got him.
This is fine.
So what the fuck is so special about this? I have a theory, and I really didn't want to go here, but I have tried so hard, and this is the only thing I could come up with. There is a mouth-to-mouth resuscitation scene between the two male characters, and you can tell this is supposed to be the moment when everybody gets up and claps. There's a bunch of memes about them being gay. Everybody always talks about how much of a twink the Fire People leader is. But you know, with every big fish, there's a leech with an Adam's apple ready to suck its dick. This scene sure does feel like it's aimed at a certain community, doesn't it? I wonder if it could possibly have anything to do with this 97. Now, maybe I'm kidding. Maybe I'm trying to gaslight people to make the comment section more interesting, but in all seriousness, I have 2 friends on this earth. One of them agrees with me that this movie is bad, and the other one likes it. And just so happens to be trans. Just so happens to be. I'm not saying how you should connect these dots.
Shake yourself.
Yes, this movie was clearly made to appeal to the gay demographic because a trans person liked it. Wow, this is garbage. You actually wrote this? Your point would be much solider if you didn't. But assuming you somehow wanted to spout your right chicken wing propaganda, your assumption would be kinda, sorta, maybe justified in your imaginary friend circle if you didn't act like gay and trans are the same thing. I get LGBT, but it doesn't work in this case because LGBT has a lot of different spectrums. And not every person in the LGBT is the exact fucking same you Neanderthal. Which, by the way, all of this is giving you benefit of the doubt because this point would still be stupid inherently because your right wing doesn't work on me because you're in the sky, and I'm on the ground where we abide by being correct, not by what you think. Which also just so happens to be where it hurts to walk, and we like it.
Also, yeah, sir, this movie was only successful because it was gay for 10 seconds. Just say Promare was objectively bad and never come to my house again. And I have to say, I'm pretty sure your trans friend is really happy that you threw their gender identity under the bus just so you can say that a movie is bad. God, go outside and ingest grass with John Forehead racism.
At any point during the creation of this video, the writing of the script, the editing, or you discussing how you have 2, possibly 1 friend after this display if they aren't Blair White, did you stop and think, am I an asshole? For real, you're using your friend's gender identity to own the libs about a movie you didn't like because you have a Broly-sized stick up your ass. The whole time you're going back and forth between this idea that they made the movie to cater to the LGBT when Kill la Kill and Little Witch are right fucking there, but you keep copping out to save yourself the backlash while still coming off like some cocky Alex Yick contrarian. Make up your mind and stick to your own convictions for Christ's sakes.
And with that, we're gonna end the video here, since the rest of it is just, useless. Anyway, so do you guys have anything left to say, or can I go home?
No.
I actually have something to say.
Aw, man. Fine, I'll just speedrun in the background.
I'm just going to go sit in the corner and enjoy being on fire while you do that.
So I want to be fully transparent when it comes to these final thoughts. The only reason I came into this commentary with a chip on my shoulder was the general tone you had towards your audience and the people who enjoyed this movie. I've seen this movie over 20 times now, and I still love it, but the actual problems it has are never really discussed here, and the problems that are brought up are barely issues made into hyperbolic bullshit. Personally speaking, my biggest problem with the movie on my first watch through was honestly Craig Forsyth himself. From the second I laid eyes on him, I knew Gallo would be punching some sense into him by the end, though on multiple rewatches, viewings of Side Gallo, and read-throughs of the original script, I like Cray a whole lot more now. What I'm getting at is that it genuinely feels like you went into this movie wanting to hate it, barely paid attention, and then chose to get angry about minor issues and completely misinterpreting key scenes and dialogue exchanges. If you don't like the movie, that's fine. But, and I'm dropping all pretenses here, blatantly lying about the movie you're talking about to rile up the comment section and then saying that the only reason the movie is successful is because it panders to the LGBT is honestly a scumbag move. Next time you want to go into one of these my shitty hot take is correct and here's why videos, actually watch, process, and research what you're covering so the supplementary material that comes with the movie and your own footage doesn't bite you in the ass like this.
Hey, Bowser, by chance, where did all this hyper-realistic blood come from?
Funny you say that, because it's coming out of you.
Ah, that explains my newly found urge to do a jump scare.
Oh no, it's Ceradus.exe.
Oh man, was that a nightmare? No, this is the nightmare.
Man, that promo video fucking sucked.
Wait, why am I here?
Yeah, you know whose bit this is. Get in the bag.
Ugh, another day, another crime I got framed for.
You don't even know what you're asking me to confess. Confess. You have nothing, I don't have to tell you anything at all. Unless
if I can prove that I never touched my balls, will you promise not to tell another soul what you saw? No one else was in the room where it happened. Is that a yes?